much for your attendance here tonight and for turning up in such large numbers. Thank you also to our audience who are joining us online tonight. We have apologies from our local councillor, Jerry Malani, who unfortunately cannot make it here tonight. So why are we here? We're here because Geevagh GAA LGFA Club are representing County Sligo in the Little One Good Club in association with Jigsaw. It is a 10-week programme and it has 5 different themes. The 5 themes of the Jigsaw 5-a-day mental health framework to improve well-being in young people. Activities we have completed so far include St. Patrick's Day Parade, Mother and Toddler Group, chair exercise classes, Joe Wicks Fun Day, Virtual Walk, Football Boot Exchange, First Aid Club, Book Club, Kids Disco and many more. To come, we have on this Saturday between 11 a.m. and 3 p.m. we have our Cree Health Check Day in Geevagh Community Resource Centre. So it's a free check, so you're free to go along and get your blood pressure and everything else checked. We have a dancing and jiving night on Monday evening between 7 and 9, also in the Geevagh Centre. Fiona May will have a live coaching information session next Thursday evening at 8:30 p.m. in Geevagh. And we will have many more activities as part of the programme, finishing with an early morning walk in aid of Northwest Stop on Sunday, the 14th of May. I would ask you all to please register online for that. The link will be on our Facebook, Instagram and Twitter pages next week. So some housekeeping before we start. There is a toilet around here at the back of the church and there are toilets up in the community centre as well. The exits is one at the back and one through the sacristy here on my right. Please put your phones on silent or switch them off. We don't want any interruptions. There will be a raffle at the interval with the proceeds going to Northwest Hospice and the Geevagh Ladies football team. And afterwards, you're all very welcome to join us in the community centre for a cup of tea afterwards. Before I hand you over to Tommy Marin, on behalf of the Geevagh GAA Executive and all of the club members, I want to say a massive thank you to Valerie Ward and her team of Mairead Cogan and Hubert McHugh for organising this event here tonight. I know that they have done Trojan work on tonight's programme and they truly deserve a massive round of applause for their efforts. And now, finally, I hand you over to our host and MC for the night, Mr. Tommy Marin. Thank you, Tommy.
Thank you very much indeed, Louise. Ladies and gentlemen, good evening and welcome. I almost feel like I should start saying Mass, but maybe later on we might just do that. First of all, it's great to see such a crowd here tonight in Highwood. It's my first time being here. What a tranquil, beautiful place, and what a setting for our theme tonight. Because even though we're all in jovial form, we hope COVID is over, we're starting into the summer season and everybody's in a positive, hopefully, state of mind. I have no doubt that in our audience tonight, for many of you, there are challenges, maybe secret challenges, maybe some that aren't so secret within your own family circle that relate to mental health. And tonight, we want to have honest, open debate about the things we can do to improve our mental health and to talk about the various challenges that people go through in their daily lives. You know, before we start, I want to thank Donal Conlon, a member of the Sligo GAA Senior Football panel, for bringing along this lovely trophy. I was going to fill it with wine and water, but I think instead we'll just show it to you. This is the Division 4 Cup, which Sligo won so brilliantly in Croke Park a number of weeks ago. So I want to say thanks to Donal. And Here's to better things for Sligo GAA. I know the under-20s are doing really well, so we're in a Connacht final in a couple of weeks' time. And when I showed this cup to Cora Staunton, she said, God, I wish we had one of those in Mayo, but they don't. So before we kick off with some chat, ladies and gentlemen, what about a bit of music? And it's lovely to see young, blossoming traditional musicians. And we know in Sligo we have this great tradition of traditional music. So at an enormous expense, we have asked two young men from the area. Geevagh is from Keiju, which is just down the road, and one of your own, Aaron Glancy from Geevagh here, and they're going to do a couple of traditional songs to kickstart us off. So give a round of applause to Aaron and Geevagh.
How are we now? How are you getting on? Yeah, great to be here. Great to get a chance to play at home. So, anyway, we'll start off with a couple of jigs. The first is a tune I learned off the mighty John Regan, got years ago in Drumshanbo, called Julian McMahon's. The second then is a tune called The Return to Burton Road, and we'll finish with a composition of Finbar Dwyer. So we'll try then. all for listening. Hold on. Thanks a million. Sure. We'll finish up with a couple of reels, speed it up a bit. What? Try to think of them now. The first is a tune I got at the Mighty Joe Burke, his version of the Bonnie Kate. The second then is, I think it's called the Donegal Traveller, I'm not sure. And the last then is a tune called The Penny Candle. So, anyway, you're in for a real treat of a night, so thanks very much, and we'll chat to you all later.
Wow, that's setting the bar very high for the rest of us tonight. Well done to Aaron and Fiachra. And I love the way that Aaron just kind of plays along, the cool dude. Yeah, she'll be grand. And all, you know, it never ceases to amaze me. Traditional musicians are always the same. They go on stage and then they wonder, what do we play? What do we start with? And that's just a great example of it. But what musicians and what talent. Thanks, Aaron and Fiachra. Now, ladies and gentlemen, you're in for another treat because I'm really looking forward to hearing our next guest. There is a charitable organisation called ALPS, which stands for All Lives Are Precious. And it is a suicide prevention charity. And to speak tonight about his own backstory and also about this organisation is a man from County Derry, and he goes around giving speeches to schools and community groups all over the country. And I know for a fact you're going to really enjoy this presentation. Would you give a big Highwood welcome to Frank Diamond?
Good evening, everybody. You tuned in there. Can you hear me okay in the back?
Yep, good stuff. Delighted to be here. My name is Frank Diamond. You recognise the accent from County Derry. So I hope you understand me okay. If any of you have seen the programme Derry Girls, some of you have, yep. So hopefully you understand my accent because we have our own way of talking up there. Delighted to be with you this evening and for a wonderful occasion. The only problem is my delivery is usually an hour and 15 minutes, so I have to minimise it to around 15 or 20 minutes, so that's going to be some crack. But I'll do my best with it. I'll do my best. So one of the trainings that we deliver is QPR suicide prevention training. It would be equivalent to Assist and Safe Talk here in the South. So for the first 4 minutes, I'm going to speak about a serious subject. There is still a lot of stigma and taboo around suicide and mental health and mental illness. And part of our role tonight is to break that, end that stigma. So I'm just going to lead you through a little scenario. And if you ever find yourself in it, hopefully you'll be aware of exactly what to do from this little presentation. So the QPR, it's not Queen's Park Rangers, okay? The Q is for question, the P is persuasion, and the R is referral. So just like we have CPR for the heart, you have QPR for the mind. So say my friend Michael is here, and I've picked up that Michael is just not himself. And again, the training gives you an idea of what signs and different things that you can't pick up on. Sadly, sometimes you just can't pick up any sign, but some of the times you can. So Michael's not himself. I say, here, big lad, what's the crack? You're not yourself. Typical fella Michael will say, I'm grand, Frank. Ask a second time. You're not grand, Michael. What's going on for you? Hopefully he'll open up. He may say something like this. I'm doing a bit too much cocaine at the minute, Frank. Now that's another subject that we seriously need to be talking about in Ireland, because I'm telling you now, cocaine is everywhere. A few weeks ago, the Irish newspapers led an article. Ireland is now the 4th highest cocaine user in the world. Fact. Just let that sink in the world. Australia's number 1, Netherlands 2, Spain 3, Ireland's number 4. My little town of Balahi, a wee village in Balahi, cocaine's up there. Latin and Monaghan was there last week, cocaine's there. It's in Sligo, it's everywhere. And sadly within the GAA, it's rampant. Not just the GAA, but that's my background. I've been fortunate enough. I've actually played at 3 All-Ireland finals back in my day, but that's another story. But the cocaine, we need to be talking more about it. Anyway, so he says that, and then he might say, I broke up with a girlfriend. So I says, look, then you ask, first thing I'd say, okay, Michael, this is temporary. We'll get through this now. I'm your friend. I'm with you. You have somebody to lean on. And then I'll ask the question directly. Are you having suicidal thoughts or feelings? Another word for it is ideation. So you ask it directly. I didn't know to do that 4 years ago until I did this training. They did a survey with 80,000 TYs in the south of Ireland here, and they asked them how many of them have suicidal thoughts or feelings in the last while. 1 out of every 14. That's where we're at. Okay, that's why we need to be doing events like this and talking openly about all of this. So anyway, he says that to me. He says he's having these thoughts. I says, right, again, I'm with you. This is temporary. It's not a permanent thing that's happening. We'll get through it. And I'll ask him, who do you love most in the world, Michael? He'll probably say his mum or his dad. And I'll say, here, look, I'll go with you now. And it might be nice, good, just to share how you're feeling with your mommy, for example. So I'll go with him, and he'll share with his mum, and his mum will give him a big hug. She'll tell him how much she loves him, and you've somebody else now in the safety net aware of the situation of how Michael is feeling. And then after that, the R piece, the referral, you bring in ALPS, the charity I work for, we offer free counselling, Pieta if they're in the Sligo area, or your local charity. If there's a local counselling charity, you bring them in to support Michael on this temporary part of his journey. Okay? And the last wee thing, and then I'm moving on to more lighthearted. If Michael's there and he says to me, here, Frank, don't tell anybody. This is strictly between me and you, it's confidential. I'm telling you now, you absolutely do bring somebody in that situation. Even though Michael's saying not to, that's a cry for help. Right there. And sadly, we're dealing with a situation that happened like that in the north of Ireland at the minute. 2 18-year-old girls. One shared that she was having suicidal thoughts and feelings. She told her friend, don't be telling anybody, this is between me and you. She didn't, and her friend sadly died by suicide. So she's now coming to us for counselling to try and deal with that. And you can imagine it's horrendous. So I don't want anybody to ever go through that. So hopefully there's a couple of things you may be aware of now around suicide prevention. Okay. Now, there's 8 billion people in the world. We all have mental health. We all have physical health. You all know that crack. If I was to ask a question, how many of you here have ever experienced negative mental health? Put up your hand. There's stigma right there now at the minute. Right? There's only a few hands going on. There's no judgment in this, but this happens when I go around schools and I ask this question. Only 2 or 3 hands go up. Then I ask this question. Okay, how many of you have ever felt sad? How many of you ever felt lonely? How many of you ever experienced negative self-talk? How many of you have overthought things? How many of you grieved the loss of a loved one or a pet? How many of you think you're not good enough? How many of you ever had those type of feelings? And hopefully everybody's hand goes up. That is negative mental health. We all have it, folks. We all have it. Every single one of us. One way of masking negative mental health, I call it the gremlins in here, is through addiction. People who go through addictions, a lot of it, when you go back, it's stuff that's gone on in here for them. I'm very blessed to be a sponsor for a recovering cocaine and alcohol addict in Kildare, where I live now. Eric is his name. Eric went to Asherie Addiction Recovery Centre in Tipperary. Came through that. Last year, I was invited down with him to experience the celebration of his 1-year sobriety. Powerful. Better than any day I had in Croke Park. Most humbling experience of my life. Anybody in recovery from addiction, they are my hero. And Eric got up, said a few words, but there was an 18-year-old girl there, and she got up 1 year sober from cocaine. And the first thing I noticed was a tattoo on her arm. And the tattoo said, broken crayons, still colour. Broken crayons, still colour. And that's one of the powerful statements I've seen in a long time. And all of us will experience some type of brokenness in our lives. Many of you already have, and myself. But to know that no matter what life throws at you, you can still choose to colour and paint the picture of life that you want to choose afterwards. We get that choice. Just like Eric and that girl now have the choice to be sober, and the brokenness they experience, they can now choose life. And another thing she said that addiction is the opposite to connection. And again, that's powerful. Addiction is the opposite to connection. So true. You think about it. Anybody who has an addiction, it's all to do with self, whatever that may be. And when I think about life, for me, life is about connection. It's not about the money. You know the song by Jessie J. It's not about the money, money, ching, ching. I love music, you'll find out. It's not about the money. It's not about the big car. It's not about the big house. It's not about how many all medals and all the rest you have, Cora, and all that crack, right? Life is about connection. Firstly, and most importantly, it's how we connect with ourselves on the journey. Our self-esteem journey. How we practice self-care, self-respect. How we love ourselves humbly and keep the ego out there. That's key. The relationship you have with yourself will determine every other relationship you have with others. Fact. And secondly, it's how we connect with each other. Back in the day, many of you are too young to remember this band. It's called Poison. Hubert probably remembers them. They had a hit song with every rose has its thorn. Every rose has its thorn. And I use that analogy for life. Because life is like a rose. It is beautiful, like a rose. But by God, life has many thorns and challenges for all of us. And no matter what TikTok-y, Snapchat-y, Instagram-y, all these things tell us, everybody on this planet has good days and bad days. Every one of us. I have them, you have them. How do you get through those bad days? It's our mental resilience that kicks in. If I was to go around this church here now, which I'm not going to, so you can reduce anxiety, and ask each of you to share a challenge, a thorn in your life that you're going through at the minute, you'd be humbled and shocked what folk in this church are going through at the minute. We just don't know whether it's behind closed doors back home, online, and I always say to folk just to be kind. Be kind. I was gifted a wonderful book at Christmas time. It's called The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse. It's powerful. I recommend it for every family and every school. And there's a wee line in it, and the mole asks the boy, what do you want to be when you grow up? And the wee boy said, kind. Kind. One chapter in my life, I was a missionary priest. So I actually feel at home in here tonight. It's bringing back great memories. For 14 years, I was a priest, and I worked 9 years in Africa. When I was 16, I went to St. Mary's in Maherfeld, and my favourite subject was RE, religion, okay? For two reasons. The first reason, I had a really cool teacher, a guy called Jerry Mains from Cookstown in Tyrone. Now, he's a Tyrone man, and you know the crack with Derry and Tyrone, Mayo and Tyrone as well. Anyway, you know the crack. Didn't hold that against him, but he was that teacher I could connect with. And the second reason why I liked RE, and I'm not a holy Joe, by any matter of fact, but I have no bother talking about my faith. And I enjoyed hearing the crack with this guy called Jesus. Now, I called him JC for short. Not Johnny Cash, although he was a bit of a legend when it came to music. But it was the way that Jesus connected with people that I was intrigued with. He never left anybody out. The poor, the lonely, the sick, the lepers, the outcasts, those who support Liverpool. He brought them all on board. And he gave them a big hug and he said, you rock, come join the JC team. And that was his message. And when I reflect on that, that is the gift of inclusiveness. And that is a powerful gift to have. And I'm going to ask you to honestly reflect on the following question for yourselves tonight. Are you an inclusive person? Or would you leave people out, maybe because of the colour of their skin? Ireland, sadly, still quite a racist country. Would you leave someone out because of their nationality, whether they're Irish or British, Celtic or Rangers? That's always a challenging one for me, being reared in the Troubles in the North. Would you exclude someone because of their sexual orientation? Would you exclude someone because they wear funny tattoos and piercings and straight away you make a judgment? Or can you say, no, you know what, Frankie D? His friends call me Frankie D. I include everyone because everybody on the planet deserves respect. And there's such a lack of respect in our world today and a lack of inclusiveness. Diversity and inclusion is a big thing now. In national schools, primary schools, all over the secondary, workplace, the GA for all is wonderful with it. Being different is cool. And we need to be telling our children, being different is cool. Be who you want to be, not what somebody else wants you to be. And I know it's not easy. Peer pressure in schools and all that crack on online is huge. But that's the thing we have to try and install in them. And another wee thing I wish somebody had told me this years ago, try not to worry so much about what other people think about you. We're unreal in this country for it. I think it's because we're an island people. It's none of my business what anybody thinks about me, and it's not yours either. All we can do in life is control the controllables. That's not one of them. For example, I'm here with you this evening. I hope to connect with some of you at some level. Others will be going out that door. What was that big lad Frankie D smoking? Right? And that's okay, because I know I've done my best, and if I connect, happy days. If I don't, that's grand too. We drive on. We drive on. Last we think about JC before we move on, because I see all these stations. Was Jesus resilient? Absolutely. Good Friday a few weeks ago, the big lad was carrying his cross. He fell in a pile. Did he stay down there? No. And feel sorry for himself? No. He got back up on the feet, he lifted the cross, and he drove on. Resilience. A few metres down the road, big lad fell a second time. Again, dusted himself down, got back up, got the cross, drove on. Resilience. A few metres down the road, big lad falls a third time, but something very different happened this time. Was he able to get up by himself? No, he wasn't. Did he need to reach out and ask for help in his time of need? He absolutely did. Anybody know the name of the guy that stepped in? I asked at school last week and the wee boy said, please sir, his name was Seamus. It wasn't Seamus. It was Simon of Cyrene stepped in and he helped Jesus get back on his feet. Now, when I reflect on that, in my humble opinion, Jesus was the greatest man in the world. Not Peter Canavan up in Tyrone, God, although he is a legend in fairness. But if he needed to reach out and ask for help in his time of need, surely you and I, especially the lads, should feel no fear, no embarrassment, no shame about reaching out and asking for help if we have a challenge, a thorn in our lives that we need support with. Sadly and tragically, there's a lot of factors to a suicide, but one of the key ones is fellas not sharing their gremlins with others, thinking they're alone with it, and the embarrassment of sharing it. And that breaks my heart because we all have stuff. Africa. 4 key tools I learned in Africa. I spent 4 years in Nigeria, 1 in Zambia, 4 in Tanzania. And these 4 tools, you can tie them in with well-being, resilience, whatever. The first one, appreciate the simple things in life. The second one is the power of human connection. Not the phone, human connection, what we have here tonight. The third one, gratitude. And the fourth one, the power of living in the moment. Another word for it is mindfulness in the precious present. 4 key tools. Where I was based, I was always in the back of beyond. Actually, driving up here the night, I thought I was back in Africa with the roads. I had no electricity. I had no running water for 9 years. Sorry, I'm joking. The toilet situation was a 6-foot hole dug in the ground out round the back. Branches across the top. We circled in the middle in a bamboo shelter. And that was my toilet for 9 years. So the next time you go to the toilet and you flush that wee bad boy, you thank God, because there are millions of people in the world today who do not have access to a flush toilet. Fact. Every time I come home to Balahi, I was in that flush toilet for about 15 minutes. Yo, happy days, ka-ching. Flush toilet. Simple things in life. Running water. No running water. Harvested the rainwater from the roof into tanks, used it for cooking and drinking. In the evening time, for washing, an open fire. There's no such thing as the immersion heater. Remember loud crack? Who left on the immersion? None of that. Heated the water, bucket, little water, empty paint tin, dipped it in, give myself a rinse, bit of a scrub, empty paint tin and rinsed it off. And that was my ensuite for 9 years. And I was very blessed to have that because my neighbours down the road, they didn't have any of that, all living in mud huts and all the rest. They had to walk to the nearest river to fetch water and to wash themselves in it. A great welcome. Anytime I reach the village, just like I received this evening, they'll kill a chicken for you or a goat. After I was fed and mothered, have mass, and sometimes I'd stay in the village. Nighttime, pitch dark, what do they do for light? They get the fire going. Big chief in the community gather around the fire. Bring out the goatskin drums, bum with the bum. But as you know, Africans are full of rhythm and music. They all know how to shake everything. They're up doing their thing. I get up and I join in for a bit of crack. I am so white, I'm like a walking torch. It's like a razor come out of my face. I do an old chicken dance and a gypsy in this crack here. They're bursting their sides laughing at this big white man trying to dance. But it's all about connecting. And I bring the guitar out with me, and chances are I was singing a wee bit. And I love a guy called Christy Moore. Go on, Christy. And he's a great song called I Wish I Was Back Home in Derry. All Tyrone people love it. So I'm teaching the kids the chorus. So I have all these wee African kids and they're all going, oh, I wish I was back home in Derry. Having a clue where Derry is. Not a clue from Adam. But are they happy? The happiest people I ever met in my life were the people in Africa. And I often think back to those nights there, that connection, community, singing, storytelling, all that. We need to bring that back now. COVID has been horrendous for everybody. And this bad boy here, so many of our younger folk now at night, going through ticky-tacky, not getting enough sleep and all the rest, they think they're connected. This is the falsest connection we have on the planet. Just be mindful of how long we spend on our phones. And never compare yourself to anybody you see on social media. Never. Whether it's the eyebrows, the fake tan, the eyelashes, whatever the crack, you are who you are, and that is the gift that you bring to this world. And you are beautiful the way you are. And somebody might need to hear this tonight. You are enough. And you always will be enough. You don't need to be like anybody else, because that's the gift. One of my favourite movies is The Greatest Showman. That movie is all about diversity and inclusion. The song, This Is Me, You Are You, and that is it. In 1995, I first went to Africa from Maynooth University to Zambia. And it was Christmas Eve. And I was in a mud hut church for Mass, midnight Mass, and I'm standing at the back, student at the back, with the people, and they're all singing and dancing, and the priest up at the front, and the next thing, the gremlin came into my head, and it was the gremlin of homesickness and loneliness. Last year for Mental Health Week, the theme they looked at was loneliness. We all feel lonely at times, everybody. Some people are very lonely in a marriage. Some people are lonely with a relationship. Some people are lonely with their sexual orientation. Some people are lonely online. There might be somebody lonely in this church tonight. What do you do with those feelings? You reach out, you connect, and you share them with somebody. So I'm standing at the back, feeling very sad and lonely, and the tears started to come down my cheek. I kid you not, at that moment, I felt a hand hold my hand. And I looked down, and there was a little girl, she was about 4 or 5 years of age, holding my hand. And she was smiling up with the most beautiful smile. And straight away, the picture in my head changed. Out went the gremlin, and in came the Care Bear. Positive thoughts. All because of the power of human connection. The power of someone holding your hand, and the power of a smile. And sometimes that's all it takes to help somebody get through a tough day, is just a wee smile. And she held my hand the whole way during Mass. Mass in Africa lasts over 2 hours. Some crack of the local priest here kept you 2 hours on a Sunday. There wouldn't be. Oh, maybe he does. Oh, Lord, save Lord, very good. Oh, classic, classic. Oh, you couldn't write it, but I love when that happens. And I just kept smiling. And I came outside and I met the mum and dad afterwards. And the little girl's name was Joy. How apt, her name was Joy. And I became friendly with the family. And after I finished my year there, I was back to Maynooth to finish my studies, was ordained a priest, and I was sent to Nigeria. But I kept in touch with the family. In Africa, you have to pay school fees to go to school. Many can't afford it. So I channeled money out to Joy's family to sponsor her through school. So she was able to go through primary school, then she went through secondary school, she went to teacher training college, she's now a primary school teacher, she's married, she has 2 little boys, and one of her little boys is called Frank. And that's my name. And that is the power of human connection. Right there. Thank you. You're very kind, thank you. From 28 years ago. And as we journey through life, you're not always going to remember what somebody said to you. You're not always going to remember what somebody did for you, but you will always remember how someone made you feel. And I'll never forget 20 years ago how Joy made me feel. Gratitude. I'm in Nigeria. I was player manager of the local soccer team. Tried teaching them Gaelic football, or a wee bit like some of the Leitrim lads at the minute that just can't catch the ball. Only joking, you were only joking about that. Okay, I thought we were more Sligo, but obviously we're more Leitrim anyway, so good crack. All right, my nickname was Tembo, and Tembo means white elephant. White because I'm white, it was like an elephant centre back. But I got a set of Derry jerseys sent out, and I had the team all decked out in the Derry kit. And 4 years after working there, I was brought back to work in Ireland for a few years. So you basically give everything away. I wish you had been there when I gave those jerseys to the lads. It was like I had given them £1 million. Now, I know it was a Derry jersey, and I appreciate everybody likes an old Derry jersey. But happy enough with the Sligo one and Leitrim, but I'm not sure about Tyrone. But anyway, there was one day I was in the mission house, and it was a 1-hour drive to the nearest hospital. And my Land Rover was a 10-year-old Defender, was used as a taxi and ambulance and hearse. But one day there was a heavily pregnant lady come up to the front door in labour, and I knew things just weren't going the best, and she needed to get to that hospital a 1-hour drive away. Packed her into the back of the Land Rover, we set sail. 10 minutes from arriving at the hospital, she gave birth to the baby in the back of my Land Rover. Some crack, right? So I drove as fast as I could. I ran in, got the nurse. The nurse came out, got the baby, umbilical cord, the mullet, and the whole thing in. And all I could do was pray that everything would be well. And thank God it was. The mother and the baby were fine. A week later, I'm in the mission house. The next thing, I see the lady coming walking up the front door, carrying a newborn baby in this arm, and carrying a live chicken tied by the legs in this hand. Now, I thought she was going to hand me the baby to hold the baby. She handed me the live chicken, right, to say thank you for helping out. Without doubt, one of the most humbling moments in my life is that woman is nothing, and yet she gave the gift of the live chicken. And later on that evening, we got there a wee chicken sandwich. But gratitude is a powerful feeling and emotion. And just like resilience, we need to practice gratitude every day. When we're thankful, we're living in the moment. We're not worrying about the future, we're not worried about the past, we're in the here and now, and that's great for our headspace. There's a good friend, some people have a gratitude journal. I do a very simple exercise at night. Before I go to sleep, I say a mouthful of prayers to the big lad and me da, and I think of 3 things that happened to me that day that I am thankful for, and I just register it mentally. I don't think of something I didn't do well or something I didn't do on the to-do list and start beating yourself up. Good luck to that crack, because then that affects how you sleep, and then you get up the next morning like a bag of cats. Keep it positive. And I am, number 1 on my list, I am very thankful to be here tonight for this. I really am. Well done, everybody. And there's a friend of mine, Jerry Duffy from Mullingar, Westmeath. He did 32 marathons in 32 days. So, Craig, I do. Good luck, right? But he talks about the power of language. And you know the way sometimes you might say something like, oh, I have to go to work today. Oh, I have to go to school. Oh, I have to go training to the local club and I couldn't be bothered. It's a dirty old night and Love Island's on. I have to. If you take out the word have and replace it with the word get, it changes the whole mindset of how you're thinking. I get to go to work. Hopefully you enjoy your work. Many are unemployed. I get to go to school. Millions don't have that opportunity. I get to go and train with my local team. Some folk are maybe have disability and aren't able to do that, but I get to do it. It's a subtle change. My life then changed. I got malaria. Malaria is the #1 killer disease in Africa, as you know. I got it 9 times. All right. Had to come home very, very ill when I was 40, and there was a lot going on in my head. I was unhappy, I was lonely and stuff going on, and I knew about it to help. I went for counselling in Cork, and it helped me a lot to sort my own stuff out. And from that journey, I realised that God was moving in a different direction. So I closed that chapter of priesthood, and I got a job in England, met a lassie from Kildare, and God blessed us straight away with 2 little girls, Karina and Leisha. Karina is now coming at 9, and Leisha's 8. We had quite the journey with Leisha. When Leisha was in her mother's womb at 26 weeks, there was something going on. We went for a scan and got it checked. It showed up 2 holes in her heart, a leaking valve, fluid around her heart and lungs, and a 1 in 3 chance that she may have Down syndrome. Now, we weren't worried about the Down syndrome piece, just as long as Leisha survived. They didn't know what to do. So kept her in for another, thank God, we got another 10 weeks down the road, 36 weeks, all ready for the C-section. 4 surgeons there ready to operate on Leisha to drain away that fluid around her heart and lungs, otherwise she would have died. First miracle happened. When Leisha was brought into this world, all the fluid around her heart and lungs drained away by itself. And she didn't need surgery at that stage. And the second miracle happened. Leisha has Down syndrome. Now, she still had 2 holes in her heart and a leaking valve, so when she was 1 year old and strong enough, she went to Crumlin Hospital in Dublin and went through 8 hours of open heart surgery. You talk about resilience, and thank God she's doing great. But without doubt, Leisha, all those with Down syndrome and different needs, they are the greatest gift that God blessed this world with, bar none. Because they teach us everything that's important about life. And the first thing they teach us is how to love. How to love unconditionally. They love you no matter what. If Leisha came in that door now, the first person she meets, Hubert, you get a big hug from Leisha. They give the best hugs, and she'll tell you, I love you. And everybody in this hall will get a hug and be told that you are loved. And you are loved. And that is the gift. I remember reading somewhere, somebody says, what is love? I know there's a song, what is love, baby, don't hurt. Anyway, what is love? Love is the absence of judgment. Love is the absence of judgment. Who are we to judge anyone? What we should do is try and help people get back up on their feet. Leisha, those with different needs and Down syndrome, they don't know how to judge. They don't know how to judge themselves harshly, and they don't know how to judge others. But guess what? We're very good at it in this country. We're great at beating ourselves up and judging ourselves harshly, and we're great at judging others. So Leisha's saying to you tonight, try not to be so hard on yourself. You make a mistake. You learn from it. You're human. You drive on. I know Frozen 1 and Frozen 2 back to front, having 2 daughters. You know the song? Let it go, let it go. You let it go, and then away you go. Okay? And judging others, I'll give you an example. Say Mary and Michael out the road here, build a nice new house for themselves. You're going to have 2 reactions in the community. And it's not just this community, it's throughout Ireland this happens. First reaction, fair play to Mary and Michael. Worked hard, saved a bunch of money, built a nice house for themselves, delighted for them. Then you have others and they'll be going, here, where did your man Michael get the money to pulled on house from. That big man's up to no good. He's pushing cocaine down around Sligo Town. Oh, aye, he's up to no good. You know the old crack. Try and be like the first one. Funny story. Leisha's first word when she was 3 years old, her first word was nice. Nice, be nice. My other daughter, Karina, a year older, I kid you not, her first word was Calpol. It was Calpol. It wasn't Mum or Danny, it was Calpol. The wee girl was addicted to Calpol. Now, she's 9 now. We got that sorted, we went to Calpol Anonymous. All's good now. But she loves a wee McDonald's. Okay, I'll finish this wee story. I know we're over time a wee bit, but sure, it's good crack. Anyway, and I'm not promoting McDonald's here. You know that crack, you eat one of them burgers an hour later, you're hungry again. But it's all about the Happy Meal, the brand and all. So October time, they had the Smurf doll as the Happy Meal, the wee blue boy, the white sticky up hair, the Smurfs. Leisha loves the Smurfs. We're walking in anyway, and there's a 5-year-old girl sitting here with her mommy and the Smurf doll on the edge of the table. Leisha spies it, as quick as a flash, grabs it and legs it up in the middle of McDonald's. And me legging up after. So I caught her, lifted her up now. She's 7 now, brought her down. Okay, Leisha, say sorry. Leisha, say sorry. Wee bit stubborn at times now, that's there too. Leisha, and she goes, sorry, and she handed it back. And the mommy says, it's okay, if she wants it, she can take it. There's no problem at all. I says, you're very kind, thank you, but we're going to get a Happy Meal now, and she get her own, and all be grand. Got up, Happy Meal, Smurf doll, happy out. Horsing the chicken nuggets into her, sparks flying everywhere. Next thing I see, the mum and the wee girl coming down. And the wee girl comes over and hands Leisha the Smurf doll. And I said, God, it's okay, she got one. And the mommy says, my daughter wants to give your daughter her Smurf doll. And Leisha, when she gets all excited, she stands up and she does a wee skip like this. She gave a big hug to the wee girl and she said, I love you. And then it was the first time I heard Leisha say these words, as clear as day. She said, best friends forever. On my heart, honest to God, all was good in the world in that moment. If you could bottle that there, that would be it. And then away they went. So that was grand. We were finishing up, and I saw 4 girls coming in. They were about 15 years of age, carrying a couple of happy birthday balloons, somebody's birthday. Sat down in a booth, and of course, all 4 of them were on their phone. Nobody was talking. You know, crack, just flicking. Yep, not a word between the 4 of the girls. So we were coming down out. Leisha loves balloons. So she spied the balloon, and she walked over beside the balloon and went, hi, guys. The next thing, the 4 girls put their phones down. And they all started to engage with Leisha and play with her, throw the balloon, she caught it, she threw it and all around. And then we had to go. And one of the girls gave Leisha a balloon as a gift. And again, Leisha, the wee skip, hug for each one, I love you. And we're heading out the door, and Alicia's there with 2 Smurf dolls, a balloon, a belly full of chicken nuggets and fries, and the smile is broad on her face by. And I just stopped, and I went back and I said to the 4 girls, complete strangers, I said, I hope you are as proud of yourselves as I am of you, of how you included my daughter with Down syndrome and brought her great joy. And that is the power of human connection right there. And things like that are happening all around us. But unfortunately, so many have the head stuck down, 75% flicking like this. What are you not missing out by not lifting up your head and looking around you? You're missing out on life and the power of human connection. There's 6 things I want each of you to quit as you leave the church here today. The first one, trying to please everybody. Second one, fearing change. Third one, living in the past. The fourth one, beating yourself up. The fifth one, overthinking. And the last one, try not to worry so much about what other people are thinking about you. So I'm going to finish with a wee song here now. God loves a trier. I'm a trier. This song is called Lean On Me. I'm only going to sing. I know we're stuck for time. I'm only going to sing 1 verse. But it's a great song. We're not alone on the journey. We all have somebody to reach out, connect with, whether it's the big lad in the church, a friend, a companion, whatever it is. You're not alone. Lean on me. That sounds good, big lad, eh? Sometimes in our lives, we all have pain, we all have sorrow, but if we are wise, we know that there's always tomorrow. So lean on me when you're not strong. I'll be your friend, and I'll help you carry on, for it won't be long
somebody to lean on. If there is a load you have to bear that you can't carry, I'm right up the road, I'll help share your load. If you just call me, you just call on me, brother and sister. You need a hand, we all need somebody to lean on. Might have a problem that you wanna stand, we all need somebody to lean on. So lean on me when you're not strong, and I'll be your friend, and I'll help you carry on. For it won't be long till I'm gonna need somebody to lean on. Somebody to lean on. Up Sligo and Leitrim. Thank you very much, folks.
Sorry, over time there.
That is Frank Diamond, ladies and gentlemen. Frank, there are a few things I think you need to know. First of all, the captain of the Leitrim team is in the audience. There is an exit door on the right. And secondly, if I were you, I would talk to John Flynn. He's the guy looking after the video, so he can edit out the piece about Father Cullen, okay? But other than that, you were grand. Wasn't that just amazing, ladies and gentlemen? Thanks very much. Well done. Okay. A couple of weeks ago, Sandy Kelly, who's well known, she is an international singing star and one of our own. I met her in the Castledargan Hotel. She's away actually in Scotland on a tour at the moment, playing Patsy Cline. Now, she said it herself, if she plays Patsy Cline for much longer, she'll be old enough to be Patsy Cline's mother. But she's still doing it, and she's a wonderful entertainer, and she's a true professional. But behind I suppose, the excitement of show business, there's a sad story, as you're about to hear. This is Sandy Kelly in conversation with me a couple of weeks ago in the Castledargan Hotel. So we're ready to roll it there, Colette. For over 60 years, Sandy Kelly has been a hugely successful singing artist, both here and abroad. And I suppose on the outside, many people would say, what a life, what a career. Huge audiences, lots of accolades and the like. But behind every happy story can be some sad stories. And as we're talking tonight about health and well-being, Sandy Kelly is going to share with us some of the darker moments of her life in the context of our theme here tonight. Sandy, thanks for joining us.
Not at all. It's lovely to see you again, even though the topic is kind of sad. We're normally jolly and pepped up, but a bit different tonight.
But there comes a time in everyone's life where we have to maybe share the darker side for positive reasons, which is why we're here tonight. Your stories are on different levels in relation to the death of your sister Barbara by suicide, your daughter Barbara, who has special needs, and your mother. And I want to start maybe by talking about your own mother and the challenges that she had.
Well, my mum was a very bright, bubbly, wonderful person, very funny, and everybody loved her. Aged 39, while we were living in Ballymote actually, she became very ill, and nobody could diagnose it. And back then you didn't have scans and you didn't have the same facilities as there is now. So we moved back to Wales, where we had lived previously, because we felt that she might have a better chance there of a diagnosis, which unfortunately did come. And we discovered that she had a large clot on her brain. And after brain surgery, then the person that went into hospital came out a totally different, a stranger actually, because she was then dependent on us for everything. We had to dress her, we had to feed her. And we made the huge mistake of bringing her home, because you may or may not know, back then we lived in a mobile home. We didn't live in a house, and so the facilities wouldn't have been the same. And we thought it was the right thing to do to bring Mum home. And over the next 8 years of her life, she was in and out of hospital, had more surgery, and we moved back to Ireland, I should say, and she had loads more surgery in Dublin. But she just got worse and worse, and it was just a very, very difficult time, especially for my sister Barbara, because she was only 8. I was 16. when my mum became ill. And I suppose, tragically, once mum became ill, I became the woman of the house at age 16, taking care of Barbara, rearing Barbara, and also looking after my mother while singing with the Fairway Show Band. So sort of wearing a couple of hats at the same time.
And when you look back on that period of your life now, do you feel that that had an impact on your well-being?
I think it had a huge impact on my sister's well-being. You know, thinking back, I've just finished my autobiography, which has taken a number of years, and that makes you think about things that you don't want to think about, and read things and look back at pictures. And having gone through my past and my history and my family and what happened to my mother, I think it impacted all of us in some way, because first of all, I had the responsibilities that a 16-year-old shouldn't have. And you really wasn't equipped to have. And back then, again, you didn't have the support. We didn't have any home help or nothing, really. We didn't even have a nurse coming out to call. And so it impacted us all. And my father was only a young man too, if you think about it, you know.
Moving on to your daughter, Barbara. What age were you when Barbara was born?
William was born when I was 25. I was married at 23. William came when I was 25. Barbara was 27.
And at what stage did you find out there were problems?
Well, there's the thing, you know, I always think there's a silver lining in every sad story or every bad situation. And for me, the silver lining was that my mum, as a result of her surgeries, she had epilepsy, and she had a shunt, which they had to insert, I won't get technical about it, to drain the fluid from her brain. When Barbara came home, she was sent home a healthy baby, and I was delighted with a daughter already having a son. And when I brought her home, I noticed that her eyes were flickering and she was blowing little bubbles. And I thought straight away, she's having seizures. So I had a path born into Sligo General, and I was told repeatedly that I was an over-anxious mother and I wouldn't give up. And she was getting worse. And then eventually, there again, there was no scanner, so they did an X-ray, and they saw a large shadow on Barbara's brain. And she was sent straight to Crumlin, and from there to the Richmond where my mother had some of her surgeries. So there we were walking up the same corridor with the baby, and Barbara had a large cyst on her brain, and because it wasn't diagnosed immediately, it was filling with fluid, and it was crushing the 2/3 of her brain. So it was a third, the 2/3 were being damaged. So she was, brain damaged because of the cyst. So she had surgery. She had the same shunt as my mother for a totally different reason. And we grew up there again. I'm thankful that I had the experience with my mother that perhaps saved Barbara from further suffering. And also, having a child with special needs in itself has a silver lining. I would have wanted a different life for my daughter. I would have wanted her to have all the choices any other girl would have. But having said that, she has made us a different family, and we grew up with a different set of values. Say, for instance, I'm very fortunate now. I have a grandson, Frank, who's 8 years old, and him and Barbara are best buddies. And he's learning a great life's lesson from spending so much time with Barbara. And I can see already he's a different person because of that. But there again, we've grown, we're a different family because of Barbara's mental challenges.
What I've always genuinely admired about you is that, Barbara was born back in a time when people with special needs weren't really talked about.
No.
You never shunned her into the background. She was always part and parcel of the
She was
pair.
always with me,
Yeah.
as you remember. Barbara,
still is.
and still is. She always came to America. She came to England on the tours. And as you know, she has very colourful language, and she has told very important people where to go in Barbara's fashion. And when people ask me now, how is Barbara, as they do every day, I say, well, she's still telling people where to go, so she's good, Yeah, and I remember, as you say, back then, I was doing shows in Dublin with Brendan Grace Christmas season, and a lady said to me, aren't you the singer with the retarded child? And of course, I knew that she didn't mean to offend me, but I just said, well, I have a daughter with special needs. And she said, I said, she's here, there she is. And she said, oh, aren't you great to bring her with you and bring her out, like, as if, as you say, she should be locked up.
And again, in terms, at face value, we see what you've done with Barbara. But inside, Sandy, There has been huge
It's
challenges.
been hard. I find as I get older, when I was younger, it was easier to take care of Barbara. And she is great, as you know. I mean, I don't want to just talk about the challenges. I mean, she's a wonderful human being. She's very funny, and she's great within the family. But it's difficult as I get older. It was especially hard during lockdown because we didn't know what we were dealing with, and we thought, you know, I wanted to protect her. She was home. I'm lucky I get respite most weekends, and so she was at home, and I didn't want to send her back. I was scared. I didn't know she'd be at home for 19 weeks, and she's cute, as you know, and she knew that I couldn't send her back. I could have, but then I couldn't bring her home. She had to either stay at home or go back to respite, and I wasn't going to do that. And she knew, and she played holy hell. She did everything that could be done. She did it. And I ended up speaking on Claire Byrne about it. And the thing that astonished me about that was that after that interview with Claire Byrne, the amount of messages I got from other parents who reached out, and I mean, I was lucky. There were people, there was one lady, she had 2 grown sons with autism that she was scared of. And she was on lockdown. So, you know, the rest of us weren't too bad, were we?
No, and it goes to prove that again, by talking to other people in a similar situation, it helped even you after all those years of looking after Barbara.
Yeah.
Then it's your sister Barbara, which I suppose had to be the bluntest instrument in which to hit any human being with.
It's like a punch to the gut, is the only way I could explain it. You know, we hear about suicide and we're aware of it, of course, but when it comes to your door, it's something that it's hard to even explain it. It's I mean, it's only lately that I've been able to talk about it because, excuse me.
Sure, because it's such a sensitive subject.
It's a sensitive subject, and you know, for the longest time people were asking me to talk about it and I didn't. But then I realised that that was very selfish on my part, and that the very least I could do is to create more awareness of the mental issues that people have, that we all have at some stage in our lives. And my sister Barbara, as you knew Barbara very well, she had a great personality, beautiful looking lady, bubbly, charitable, you know, talented, all the things that you should think would make somebody happy and give them a perfect life. In writing my book, I was made aware of the fact that Barbara had a difficult childhood, because she went from being the golden child in our house. I mean, it used to really annoy me because whatever Barbara wanted, Barbara got. And because I was the 8 years older, I had a brother that passed away at 5 months that was born before Barbara. And I think my parents overcompensated Barbara because of that loss. So she was wonderful, and people would still say to me, you know, I miss Barbara. She'd wave and she was larger than life. But going alongside with that, Barbara struggled mentally, and she never talked about it. She wouldn't talk to me about it, and she wouldn't talk to anybody about it.
Did you know? Did you feel it was?
We were aware of it because we would witness it. You know, that Barbara could be. I don't know. She was never diagnosed, but if you asked me my opinion, I would say bipolar, because she would be in great form, and then all of a sudden, like a switch, she would be in the worst of form, and that would present itself with a certain amount of, not full-blown aggression, but just not nice. You know, she could be maybe not nice to me. She'd have an argument with me, and that would be a normal thing. And then she wouldn't talk to me for 2 weeks. She'd say, I don't want to see you, I don't want to talk to you. And I'm the opposite to that. I'm quiet and less pushed. So I would just go away for the 2 weeks, and then she'd come back. When she would come back, she'd never mention it. She'd never say what we fell out over or what the issue was. But she then on this, what made it especially hard was she decided she didn't want me in her life. Maybe a year and a half prior. So I hadn't spoken to her properly in a year and a half, which made it very difficult.
So it was all these what if.
What if I had knocked on her door? What if, even though I knew if I knocked on her door, she might be angry with me or she might tell me to go away, I should have done it anyway. I should have knocked on her door anyway. And, you know, you think, the other thing is you think you have time. You don't always have time. And that's the one thing I suppose that I regret, is not, just making myself go there. But I honestly thought that I was giving her respect, because can be a pain in the backside. I'm not an easy person either, because everything has to be done right, everything has to be done at a certain time, and I'm very regimental that way. And she was the opposite, and I'm sure I annoyed her, And I thought, well, I'll leave her alone, she'll be back. She didn't come back.
No, didn't, unfortunately. Did you get professional help, or did you feel you needed help?
Me afterwards?
Yeah.
No, I didn't get any help. Do you know what? I've been asked that a few times, but I honestly think because I talk about it, my niece Sandy lives with me, and her and we talk about it a lot. And so if I have a bad day, I can say, Sandy, I'm struggling today with this. We'll talk about it, and vice versa. No, I don't honestly think I need it, because I don't feel the need to tell somebody this. Well, what are they going to do about it? I can, I don't have a mental problem. If I had, I would reach out. I'm stricken with grief, with the grief and the loss of my sister. But I'm going to have to learn to manage that myself.
Finally, Sandy, in terms of health and well-being, I mean, you've had your challenges, there's been a lot of obstacles. What do you think has seen you through?
Not having time to stop or think about it. Always having to go to the next thing. From I was a child, I don't remember. People say to me, what do you do in your spare time? What's your hobbies? I don't have any. And that's not a complaint on my part. I seem to survive by being busy and moving on to the next thing, like the book, which I didn't want to do. I hadn't done an album in 30 years, and I've just finished an album. So I think I probably healed by being creative. By going into the studio, I went to America with Willie, and we went into Cash Cabin, and I found it very difficult. We went 3 times, very difficult to sing the songs, very difficult to be that honest in the songs, but it was very healing for me to do that and to write the book and get it out and be honest.
And very finally, the great song One Day at a Time. Do you take it one day at a time? Do you worry that maybe down the road, someday, when maybe you're not as busy, you might hit a wall?
No, I don't. No. To be honest with you, Tommy, I don't think about it, because I've always felt that I needed to be here in every sense of the word for the people that are still here that I love, like Barbara. Barbara relies on me, like my niece Sandy, my son Willie, my grandson Frank. So I find that very rewarding. Making dinner, having them over to the house, stayovers. Those are the things that I get excited about, and no, I don't worry about that, no.
Well, look, we look forward to the new book. When is it going to be out?
I got the date the other day and I almost fell off the chair. The 9th of October. Does that ring a bell with you?
Yeah, it does.
The day Barbara passed away.
Wow.
Yeah.
And the name of the book, or do we?
So, I was going to call it The Showman's Daughter, because I'm very proud of my culture. But it was decided by people that know better than me to call it Sandy Kelly in my own words, because I actually hand wrote it, 90,000 words.
Wow. Look forward to reading it.
And the album comes out the same day.
Same day.
So you'll have to play that now.
Definitely. So 9th of October is going to be the date. Sandy, thank you so much.
Not at all, Tommy. I'm glad to be here. I'm sorry that I'm not there in person on the night. I'll actually be in Scotland. I'm in Scotland as we speak. Yeah. But thank you.
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, Sandy Kelly. So, that was Sandy Kelly. Ladies and gentlemen, we've one more guest before we have an interval, and I'm delighted to invite on stage a man known to you so well, so entertaining, so talented, despite the fact that he's from Galway. But anyway, we'll let him away with that tonight. From Carolstrand, the one and only Mr. Sean Kane.
Hi, Herbert.
Sean, we'll have a
Good
seat
evening,
there.
everybody.
This is kind of different for you, isn't it? I mean, you go out and you entertain people in theatres and the like. Coming on stage tonight and kind of being asked to talk about the private side of Sean Kane, is that difficult?
I suppose it is. It's something that I grown out of the habit of doing, to be honest. My wife passed away, Virginia passed away in 2010, so that's 13 years ago in July, the 3rd of July in 2010. And I suppose, like a lot of people here, going through the grieving process and the various stages of grief that you go through, I suppose I went through them the same as most people go through. You don't know what you're doing. You're in a world of your own, oblivious to where you are in the world, and caring less, I suppose, in a lot of cases. Hoping that you were the one that, or wishing that you were the one that was gone, and that Virginia would be here with our 2 daughters and so on. So it's something that I haven't spoken about, I think, since the last time I was with Hubert, and that was before COVID, I do believe, Hubert. And it was an amazing night where I think there was 700 people. Like tonight, it was a full house. And meeting a lot of people there, speaking with other people that have had problems and bereavements and so on. When Hubert asked me to come up here, what is it, a couple of months ago, well, my answer was yes, because I don't know what I have to say, but he's trusting me that I'm going to say something that may be helpful to somebody else. Yeah. I great faith in me. I don't know why, but
she was your wife, your friend, your manager. I mean, she was so part of every part of your life.
She was just a huge part of my life. She was everything to me and to my life. And we started out, when we got married, and I had my first mortgage of 18%, and Marilise, my eldest daughter, was just born. That's when Virginia came up with the brainwave that maybe I should record an album. But I had been in the music business all my life since I think I sang the first time I sang in an All-Ireland Flair was when I was 7 years of age. And I was at it right up through my teenage years and so on. But I was always working. I was always working with my hands, and engineering and welding and steel fabrication was the thing that I loved. So that was what I was working at the time. And we built a house in Tipperary, and I built a shed, and I had 3-phase electricity in it. I had a pit in the floor. I was getting all geared out to provide for the family, and this was my way forward. And then Virginia persuaded me. She said, maybe you should make an album. Well, actually, I suppose to go back to the beginning of the story, I met the great Artie McGlynn, wonderful guitar player, from Omagh in the County Tyrone, for all the people from Tyrone that got blackguarded tonight. But Artie was a wonderful man. I met him out in Inishboffin. We had a weekend out there. And Artie said to me, he says, you should record an album. And he says, if you do ever decide to record an album, he says, I'd love to produce it. So Virginia heard that conversation that we had, and she cajoled me, and I said, okay, we'll do an album. I phoned up Artie, and we did the album. But I did it with a record company who took me to the cleaners, basically. I signed for a 5-contract deal that never materialised, and it cost a lot to buy out of the situation I found myself in. The best part of our married life, actually. It was something that, it was a struggle, but it was a struggle we enjoyed because we were doing it together. And just one day, I suppose the album took off and the shed remained unfinished, and the music just took me on the journey that I'm on today. And that's basically what I did. I was just following the music. I recorded an album, as I say. I recorded a few songs, and I spent from then until now following them around the world. And it's an amazing experience. But it all came from I suppose it shows the kind of woman that Virginia was, because she was the one that encouraged me to do it. And I said, well, I'll record the album if you manage my career. And she says, I know nothing about the music business. Well, I said, neither do I. So we'll go at it together and we'll learn as we go. So we spent, 21, 22 years doing that, and it was a privilege and a joy to do it with her.
Was she sick for long before she passed?
No, there was only a few months. She was diagnosed with pancreatic cancer, and there wasn't a lot of time left, really. So it's very aggressive, and she passed away just a few months, maybe 9 months later.
During that time, did you talk about it much?
Oh God, we did. We talked about nothing else. It's just to try and overcome another obstacle, and we did everything we could to set it right, and we failed to set it right as we see it. Maybe we're all going to go at some stage, and she died peacefully is another thing that I'd say, and she died at home. She was the 2 girls. One was in junior cert and one was in leaving cert, and she was a teacher. So the bed where she was lying was full of books and essays, and she was coaching the 2 girls through their exams while she was going through that stage in life. But that was her priority, get those girls their exams, and that's what she did. Yeah.
The bereavement process for you, Sean, I mean, Sandy talks about keeping herself busy. so that she maybe doesn't have the time to really reflect on what's going on. Was it a bit like that for you? Did you kind of embrace the music industry after she went, or was there a period where you just said, I don't want this anymore?
Oh, I had no time for it at all. I didn't want to hear music. I didn't want to play music. I didn't even want to be out in public. As I describe it, one of the loneliest places is in a full hall, or a place that would be full of people, because you'd be looking around to see where she was, and she's not there, you know. So I went to the garden. I started gardening and doing stuff like that, but I had no grow at all to go singing or to do music or to do anything really. And one day I was out in the garden and I was tipping away and sure thinking away, and I just had this thought, an epiphany I suppose you could call it. I thought, after all the years that Virginia put into my career and our lives together and the kids and the girls and everything else, and here I am, after all of this time and after all of that work, I'm kicking scrolls around the garden. And I just had a look at myself and I thought, it was like she gave me a kick in the bum from the far side. And that's what it felt like. It was just like a shake I got. And it was kind of, cop onto yourself. Get up, get out, go live your life. And I thought, she must be sick looking at me, being like this. And it just gave me this enthusiasm and everything else. So I went back at music, guns blazing. And that was after maybe 2.5 years, something like that.
And when you look back on that 2.5 years, would you say you were in a bad place in terms of your mental health?
I wasn't in a great place, not in a great place.
Did you talk to anybody about it?
No, I didn't. And my family come around to bring me out and everything else. They could see. But of course, when you're in the situation, you don't see. You don't know where you're at in the world. You don't know how you are, really. You're just waking up in the morning, you go to bed at night, and it's kind of just rolls in one into the other. So they would come around and kind of cajole me to come out, there's a session going on, or there's a family party going on, or something. I'd always have some kind of excuse not to go. Until that day came, as I said, and I got the kick in the bum from myself, and that was it.
And how is life for you now?
It's absolutely amazing. It's great. I'm enjoying it, and I think gratitude is the one. I was just grateful for all I had. All we had together, the two girls, so life is good.
Still some bad days?
Oh, well, yeah. Even 13 years later, you bring things up, and yeah.
Well, look, it's lovely to have you here, and if you think you're getting away without singing a song, you can think there's another kick in the bum on the way. So maybe to finish the first half, if there was somebody in the audience tonight, or the general message from your challenge, your rose and the thorns, as we spoke about earlier on, what would you say to people?
So hard to say anything, really. It's very difficult to say things of encouragement, and you kind of have to go through the process of grieving, and you cannot rush it, and it's different for everybody. So me speaking about my situation, I know it probably doesn't resonate with other people because everybody deals with it different, and that's what I think. But I think the one thing is that I got is the respect for the person who had passed away and our connection. And if I was gone, would I want to see Virginia moping around the garden? No, I wouldn't. Nor, you know what I mean? So that's kind of the way I look at it. I think, that person deserves a different respect to honour their life and to honour their passing. And that's kind of what I set about to do, and here we are today.
Here we are. Okay. Will you sing a song for us?
I'll give it a try.
What will you try?
Oh, God only knows.
A song. There is a song called God Only Knows, but...
Would he sing it?
I don't know. Well, if Father Cullen has a sermon, I don't think he'll have time, but go on.
Yeah. Well, no, there's a song, actually. I brought a backing track with me. I had a computer full of music and everything up until about a month ago, and while passing over the computer with a mug of tea.
Uh-oh.
Yeah. So I had to go out and buy a new computer, but it's lacking the information. So I have a song on here that and hopefully I'll have a look at it in the computer. It's a song that was written by a band called Lady Antebellum, as they were called at the time. And it's a song called Never Alone, and I thought it was just appropriate tonight to do that song. I think it's a good song of healing, and I'll give it a try.
Excellent.
And we'll see what
Sean Kane, and just while while Sean is getting organised, we are going to have a 15-minute interval. There are raffle tickets on sale. The proceeds tonight are going between the Geevagh Ladies Football Club and Northwest Hospice, and also the Frank Diamond Recovery Fund. So there's loads of prizes. There's a Homeland voucher for €100. There's dinners. There's furniture vouchers. There's pharmacy vouchers. From all over the place, loads of prizes. So we're asking you to be as generous as you possibly can and support the raffle. And thanks to all of the sponsors that we will mention later on. So to finish our first half, ladies and gentlemen, Mr. Sean Kane.
That wasn't it. Me and technology. Small little bit more on the back and track. May the angels protect you, trouble neglect you, and heaven accept you. When it's time to go home, may you always have plenty, your glass never empty, and know in your belly you're never alone. May you taste them from laughing, find friends worth having, with every year passing, they're worth more than gold. May you win but stay humble, smile more than grumble, and know when you stumble, you're never alone. Never alone, never alone. I'll be every beat of your heart when you face the unknown. Whenever you fly, this isn't goodbye. My love will follow you, stay with you, lady, you're never alone. Well, I have to be honest, as much as I want it, I'm not going to promise that the cold winds won't blow. So when hard times have found you, your fears surround you, wrap my love around you, you're never alone. Never alone, never alone. I'll be every beat of your heart when you face the unknown. Whenever you fly, this isn't goodbye. My love will follow you, stay with you, lady, you're never alone. Never alone, never alone. I'll be every beat of your heart when you face the unknown. Whenever you fly, this isn't goodbye. My love will follow you, stay with you, lady, you're never alone. Thank you. Thank you.
This gentleman, he's no stranger to County Leitrim, he's no stranger to the world stage, never mind the stage of Leitrim, and he is one of the gentlemen. I always say he's one of the gentle giants of music. He's a a really, really talented musician, but he's also an ordinary man. And we're delighted to have him here to sing a few songs, and knowing him probably a yarn or two as well. Give a big Leitrim welcome, please, to the one and only Mr. Charlie McGettigan.
How are you getting on? How are the bums? Didn't I tell you on the radio to bring a cushion with you? Do you find you're like me, you're switching from, you know that great song, Cheek to Cheek? It's lovely to be at church again. I spend a lot of time in church because I sing in the choir back in Drumshambo. Therefore, we're always in a bit earlier than everybody else. And I like to go early, and you see, different funny things can happen. I remember I was sitting behind this fella, and it was a very windy day, and the great thing about in a choir, when you're looking down, you can actually see the people who you thought had a big head of hair, like Donald Trump, but they really haven't. And you can see the bald patch. But this guy particularly, it was a windy day, and the whole thing had gone, it was out to here. And he was sitting there, with the rosary beads out, and he was praying like hell, before the game started. And every now and then he'd go, and then he'd go like this, and then he'd go. So I tapped him on the shoulder and said, "Get him out in the open, and I'll get him with my prayer book." So that's what church is all about. It's lovely. We were just admiring the graveyard when we were taking the photograph outside. There's a graveyard right beside our church as well. And people after Mass, they kind of wander about, looking, maybe they're visiting a relation's grave or whatever. But there was one particularly old man, he was about 80 years of age, and he was wandering around and looking here and looking there. And the local town wag, of course, sees him. "Are you looking for something?" He says, "I'm looking for a grave." He says, "What's wrong with the one you got out of?" Anybody here friendly? There's a fella down there, and he does, I'm told, he seems to be some kind of a quiet Superman. He does so much for the community, but nobody ever sees him doing it. And his birthday is today, and his name is Dermot McDermott. And happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Well, a few years ago, I was going along by my daily work, and next thing I felt a very strange tightness in my chest, and I went down into my arm, and I realised I was having a minor heart attack, and I ended up in Sligo General waiting there for 1 hour, 2 hours, 3 hours, 4 hours, 12 hours I sat there. But I'm one of these people that love to people watch. And this is a little song I wrote after getting the heart sorted and the devil and all, looking back on it with a kind of a laugh. There's a chorus to this if you feel like joining in. It goes like this. Watching the world go by, I'm watching the world go by. Sitting around waiting and I'm watching the world go by. I want to try it. Are you ready? 1, 2, 3, 4. Watching the world go by. Watching the world go by. Sitting around waiting and I'm watching the world go by. There's a man, I guess that's his wife. She seems to be the bane of his life. The things that she says, they cut like a knife. Watching the world go by. And there's a guy with a stethoscope. He's got so many cases he just can't cope. His patients won't have much hope. All together, watching the world go by. Everybody, watching the world go by. Watching the world go by. Sitting around waiting and I'm watching the world go by. There's a guy with a pinched up face. Looks like he hates the whole human race. The kind of guy who needs lots of space. Watching the world go by. And there's a girl in a uniform. It's hard not to notice. She's got perfect form. Gets me wonder if my thoughts are normal. Watching the world go by. Everybody, watching the world go by. I'm watching the world go by. sitting around waiting and I'm watching the world go by. Well, I've been here for most of the day, trying to get my troubles to go away. I don't weep and I don't cry, 'cause I'm watching the world go by. Your turn. World go by. Very good. I knew you were intelligent. Watching the world, I'm watching the world. One more. Watching the world go by. I'm watching the world go by. Sitting around waiting and I'm watching the world. Sitting around waiting and I'm watching the world. Sitting around waiting and I'm watching the world go by. Thank you. Anybody, any parents down there? If you're a parent, put up your hand. Come on, you've got to admit it. There must be more parents than that. If you're a parent, put up your hand. That's great. I love it. I'm a grandparent now, and I have great fun with the grandkids. You know, I remember Olivia. She was just about 4 or 5, and we were searching in the house in the television, trying to find the children's channel on the television. And I turned to her and I said, "You know, Olivia, when I was your age, we didn't have television." And she looked at me. "Could you not have looked at it on your phone?" No, Dermot. But I just love when you overhear the conversations, you know. And Olivia is the eldest. She's 12 now, and she knows everything about everything. And Leo, he's 10. So they have these conversations. I heard her one day. Leo, she said, "Do you know, Mommy and Daddy are much older than us." "Yeah," she said, "Leo, yeah. That means, Leo, they're going to die before we do." "Yeah, and then we can do what we like." The true stories are the best, aren't they? I'm going to sing a song. I watched a movie last night called Anne. It's in the Carrick Cineplex at the moment. And it's all about a young girl called Anne Lovett, 15 years of age. Back in 1984, she concealed her pregnancy and sadly died in a grotto in Granard. The film is relentlessly sad, but I think it's a story that needed to be told. And I remember way back whenever that was, a few months afterwards, I wrote this song, and it was kind of a reaction to what happened to Anne Lovett, because she never told anybody. And this is a song you might know. If you feel like joining in, it goes like this. It's called Feet of a Dancer. Find the feet of a dancer. I hope you can sing in the rain. I hope you find all the easy answers to your pain. It won't be easy. What can I say? 'Cause there will be trouble on the way, and around every corner, terror and tears. But always remember that we're here. Sing it if you know it. And I hope, feet of a dancer, I hope you can sing in the rain. I hope you find all the easy answers to your pain. And I hope you find love and affection. I hope you find someone who'll care. I hope you find all the right directions everywhere. Everywhere. A shoulder to cry on. Whenever you're low, you can rely on us, you know. 'Cause there's nothing too crazy, and there's nothing too dear. Just always remember that we're here. And I hope you find the feet of a dancer. I hope you can sing in the rain. I hope you find all the easy answers to your pain. And And I hope you find love and affection. I hope you find someone who cares. I hope you find all the right direction everywhere, everywhere. It's funny, Valerie was telling me that this song was sung at her wedding years ago. So where are you, Valerie? So she's still, you're still living with him, are you? Okay. After that song, you might not want it to. And even when the rain comes falling down, and oh, it's falling down on you, I hope you find the feet of a dancer. I hope you can sing in the rain. I hope you find all the easy answers to your pain. And I hope you find love and affection. I hope you find someone who'll care. I hope you find all the right directions everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. Always remember that we're here. Feet of a dancer, feet of a dancer. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'd like to finish off with a medley of my greatest hit. What are you laughing at? How many hits have you had? Come on. Way back in 1994, Frank was given out about us earlier on, and Leitrim won the Connacht Championship for the first time. And it was a great, we beat Mayo that day. Where is she? But we also did the double that year. We won the Eurovision Song Contest as well that particular year. Myself and Paul Harrington had the honour of representing Ireland in the Eurovision Song Contest, and we won it with this next song. If you know the words, feel free to join in. I remember 62. I was 16 and so were you, and we lived next door on the avenue. Jerry Lee was big and Elvis too. Blue jeans and blue suede shoes, and we never knew what life held in store. We just wanted to rock and roll forevermore. Let's hear you sing him. We were the rock and roll kids. Rock and roll was all we did, and listening to those songs on the radio. I was yours and you were mine, and that was once upon a time. Now we never seem to rock and roll anymore. You know, funny things happen to you when you win the Eurovision Song Contest, but one of the nice things that happen is all the Irish winners, once every 2 years we get together and do a few concerts. You know, Johnny and Linda and Niamh, and Paul and myself and Dana and all the different people. But I remember the last time we were doing a concert down in Limerick in the Limerick University Concert Hall, and we were staying in a hotel close by, and we were about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. I wandered in to the hotel, and I was looking around the lobby, and a few people around, and next thing Johnny arrives in. And when Johnny arrives in, everybody's jaw drops. Oh my God. And he comes over and he gives me a hug and he goes off over to check into the hotel. And this little old lady came over to me. She said, "Was that Johnny Logan?" And I said, "Yeah. Are you his father?" Terrible when things like that happen. Now Johnny's in love with the girl next door, and Mary's down at the record store. They don't want to be around us no more. We're golden oldies, but we hardly speak. Too busy running to a different beat. Hard to understand that we were once like them. How I wish we could find those rock and roll days again. We were the rock and roll kids. Rock and roll was all we did. And listening to those songs on the radio, I was yours and you were mine, and that was once upon a time. Now we never seem to rock and roll anymore. But you won't do one on your own, you ready? We were the rock and roll kids, rock and roll. The Highwood Choir, huh? I was yours and you were mine. That was once upon a time. Now we never seem to rock and roll anymore. I was yours and you were mine. That was once upon a time. Now we never seem to rock and roll. Wait for it. We just never seem to rock and roll anymore. Highwood, douce-moi. Thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the evening.
Well done, Charlie McGettigan. Thanks very much, Charlie. Absolutely brilliant. Okay, it's time for a few ladies to speak now, ladies and gentlemen, because I know we've spoken an awful lot tonight about opening up and communicating and confiding in people and telling people, but sometimes you also need some medical intervention, and I want to introduce to you, she's a consultant psychiatrist for the Sligo-Leitrim area with the HSE. Give a welcome, please, to Dr. Emer Maguire. Hi. I know it's difficult to come on stage, after all of the things that have happened here before, because we haven't really talked about the medical intervention that sometimes is required when we talk about mental health. Can I ask you, did you always want to be a psychiatrist or work in this area?
I did actually. I'm from Boyle. A few people here probably know my mother is a psychiatrist, Dr. Mary Maguire. So I always wanted to be exactly like her, but I also wanted to stay at home as well and not do any work. So I found myself caught between the two. But yeah, I was always interested in psychiatry. She loved her job and she gave me great insight into it.
Your daily work, what does it involve?
So it's very varied. We have patients in the inpatient unit. People might have to be admitted sometimes if they're very unwell. And we also do a lot of work in the community, as people who know Valerie and Hubert will know. The nurses work in the community going out, and we would often see people in their own home, or we might have clinics. And we do lots of different variety of things. Yeah.
When somebody is not in a great place and somebody suggests, you need to see a psychiatrist,
yes,
sometimes that's like a red rag to a bull.
Yeah.
When they actually sit down and you meet them for the first time, can you feel that kind of tension, and how do you get rid of it?
Yeah, and I think it feeds back into what many of the speakers were saying tonight, you know, the stigma around mental illness. And I know it's great that we all talk about mental health now, it's really out there, but it's okay to have mental illness as well, and we're always trying to get that message out. So yes, oftentimes it can be very difficult to convince them to come to somewhere, and I know Valerie works in Liscarney House, and I worked there myself previously, and I would always say we would spend so long asking people would they come to Liscarney for support, and it would take so long to convince them, and then it would be very hard to convince them to leave. They'd got on so well there, you know, so people really did appreciate the interventions there. So yeah, look, it's an area that's still stigmatised, but we have to battle against that all the time.
And does it take a long time to develop a kind of a trusting relationship between you and the client?
Well, I suppose I trained as a GP as well during my psychiatry training, so that actually gave me great ability to establish rapport, as we say, very quickly, because in GP you have 10 minutes and that's it, you know. So no, I don't think that it would take very long, and I think that's what we're trained to do, and trained to pick up on cues from people and, you know, to get to the nub of the problem, you know.
Why, I asked, we were talking earlier on, you know, about the numbers of people who die by suicide.
Yes.
Why do you think so many people take their own lives? I know it sounds like a very blasé question, but as a psychiatrist, from your work, what are you seeing?
Well, I suppose, you know, it's multifactorial. You know, there's so many different reasons why it happens, and unfortunately it's a tragic thing, and it happens to people who never come to the psychiatric services. And so suicide isn't always an indication of a mental illness, you know, it can be for a variety of other reasons. Obviously, people that have mental illness are more likely to die by suicide. But we have kind of what we call fixed risk factors. So you have your genetics, if it's in the family, all of these are risk factors. But then we have the variables. And again, these were highlighted during COVID, really shone a light on social isolation, loneliness, alcohol and drugs, as was pointed out earlier. That's a huge issue, particularly with young people, as Frank pointed out. And I think that that's so important. Cocaine is absolutely everywhere. But not only cocaine, there's weed as well, and we have a huge problem with that because people don't see it as a drug. And actually the weed that's being used at the moment is about 100 times stronger than it was 20 years ago. And smoking it as young teenagers makes it much more likely that you'll develop a psychotic illness later in life. So it's a really huge problem. So we need to be shouting about that, you know, and protecting young people.
One of the criticisms, Emer, of psychiatry generally, or the health system generally, is, you know, if somebody isn't well, feed them loads of tablets.
Yes.
You know, and a lot of people would say, you know, is that really, you know, the way to solve the problem?
Yeah, so lots of things cause mental illness or cause you to feel low. I often say to people, you know, we're very lucky to live in a country where we have access to these medications. You know, we do get very good results with medications for a lot of people, and people get very good benefit and get back to living their normal life. They mightn't have to stay on medication forever. They're not the only intervention. We have psychology services as well, which can help. Usually the two things in combination are the best if you have medicine and psychology. But then the psychosocial part is so important, and I think that's really becoming more prominent, or people are realising the impact of that. So again, COVID was great for shining light on loneliness, and I don't know, I heard on the radio this morning that loneliness is the same as smoking 15 cigarettes a day. So you have isolation, and we see that particularly in the older groups, and then substance misuse, which can start off as a way to treat a problem, but unfortunately then becomes the main problem. And it can be difficult to get people to accept that that's the main problem that we need to treat initially and then treat the rest of it. But, you know, we try to use the smallest amount of drugs possible. We're increasingly aware of the physical side effects of drugs, so we're doing a lot of work with primary care, with GPs, to improve our physical monitoring and to reduce side effects for patients with mental illness. And what I would say is, if you know anybody with mental illness, the best thing that you can do for them is to encourage them to comply with the treatment, to take the medication, because we know that people who take the medication are more likely to take medical medication, and it actually reduces the risk of physical illness if you take your psychiatric medication.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, a lot of people who are on medication, who are successful, would always say, I keep taking the medication, and
Yes.
that's what keeps me
Yes.
on the road to recovery.
Yes, yeah.
Since COVID, have you noticed a major increase in the number of people presenting with psychological problems?
I suppose there's been a change in what we have seen. So there's been quite a spike in anxiety and depressive illnesses, and again, substance misuse has been a huge issue. I suppose the main problems remain, but social isolation, particularly where we are in kind of the abandoned northwest, as I say, is a massive issue. And it's about kind of opening up links locally for people. And I know Hubert and Valerie did great work with the network, the bus, you know, up in Drumshambo. It's very poorly serviced. So it's about getting people out into the community and socialising people.
As a psychiatrist, Emer, do you sometimes feel like you're swimming against the tide?
You know, I have to say that I don't actually. You know, I think that we make great progress with people. I think a lot of work that's done by psychiatry, probably because of stigma, isn't recognised, because people, often I see people on the street and I don't know whether they want to say hello or not. You know, it's still that thing that people don't really want to be associated. But there's a huge amount of positive work. Unfortunately, we only hear the negative stories. And we were talking earlier, I said, you know, fortunately, I'm very fortunate, I've had very little experience with suicide, because most of the patients that we see get better. And I think that's so important to tell people as well. You know, you come to the psychiatry services, you get treated, you get better, you go, you know. So, yeah, no, I find it very rewarding, actually.
If you were the Minister for Health, do you feel that there is anything that could be done within the health system that would make the whole process easier?
Well, actually, I'm recently gotten involved. I don't know if anyone has heard of the initiative Sharing Division, but it's this new policy that the government have for mental health. And one thing, I suppose, with my background in GP that I've gotten involved in is actually improving links between primary care and secondary care. So in Ireland, we have a very fragmented system, and there's like everything is different. You know, the GPs have one system and the hospitals have another, and psychiatry is all of its own. So what we're working on at the moment is integration, because we know that integrating services improves outcomes for patients. So at the moment we're trying to find a way to fund mental illness as a chronic disease, actually, similar to cardiac and asthma, cardiac complaints, asthma, and things that are being funded already. So we're in the process of doing that, and it's amazing that really the mental illness hasn't been recognised as a chronic disease before. So yeah, there's lots going on, and it's all positive. And I think another positive thing, to go back to the drugs again, but this public consultation that's happening with the government, you know, about whether or not to legalise drugs. I think it's really important that everyone's informed and, you know, makes a decision about that.
Are you seeing more younger people than you used to?
Yeah, well, I suppose I work in adult psychiatry, but we would take transfers from the CAM service, and certainly there has been a spike in the number of teenagers presenting with self-harm and anxiety. And I think it's important to remember, you know, teenagers have just been through COVID and they live in a very, very complicated world. It's far more complex than it was even when I was young. So, you know, and again, they're socially isolated, as somebody mentioned, with the phones. It's not really social interaction. I know I asked one boy, you know, have you many friends? And he said, well, I have 170 friends on Facebook, but he had no actual friends, you know. So it is a huge problem for them.
Yeah, okay. Well, listen, yeah. Emer, thanks for giving that oversight from the perspective of psychiatry. Dr. Emer Maguire. Thanks, Emer. Well done. Thank you. Thank you, Emer. And our final guest, ladies and gentlemen, is well known to you. She's a TV pundit. She has been an amazing ambassador for ladies' sport in Ireland for many years. She's from Mayo, and she's here tonight. Would you give a big, warm welcome, please, if you would, to Cora Staunton. Thanks. Good to see you, Cora. Okay, let's analyse Leitrim's performance against New York. Oh, no, maybe not. Thanks for coming in and being with us tonight. You know, you've had such a successful career, and I was just wondering, how would I start by talking to Cora Staunton? Has all of the success, all of the accolades, all of the publicity that you got as a superior sportswoman. Has that presented you with challenges?
Yeah, firstly, I don't really like to be called a TV pundit. That means I'm certainly retired now from sports, so I think that's the first time I've been introduced like that. Yeah, I'm sure it has over time. Even just relating to a lot of the speakers tonight, especially Sandy Kelly, listening to her story. My story's quite similar to Sandy's, but yeah, I suppose growing up, again, I think on reflection, and a lot of these things are through reflection. When you're in the moment, you don't look at them, and on reflection, I suppose I grew up playing sports since I was 7, and I suppose by the age of 13 I joined the Mayo senior team, and in my first game I kicked 1-7, and for the rest of my career there was pressure put on me to be every day go out and perform like that. And as a 13-year-old I was kind of thrown into a limelight and this teenage superstar, and that continued throughout my career. I hated every minute of it. Growing up, I'm a very shy young individual and didn't want to be in the limelight. And for the majority of my probably career and through most of my Mayo career, I probably hid behind other people. And the first time I had to stand on my own 2 feet when I went to Australia, because I didn't have teammates or people I knew to stand behind. So then I had to be my true self. And yeah, I probably found at times my safe space was on the football pitch, which, a lot of people would find that hard to believe, but that's where I could be who I wanted to be. And a lot of the time, outside of that, I had to be probably someone different, but I felt very safe being on the sports field and where I could feel I was Cora and just Cora the person, not Cora the footballer.
Yeah, but as you said, if you didn't score 5 goals and 28 points in every game, people said Cora didn't have a great day. So was there ever a time when you said, you know what, I'm going to throw it away here, I don't want it anymore?
There was probably one stage in my life, probably relating back to Sandy's story. When I was 13 years of age, my mother was diagnosed with cancer. I had just started, or was coming towards the end of first year in school, and this was all around the time I joined the Mayo team at the end of first year in secondary school. My mother got sick, had cancer, and she had a battle with cancer for nearly 3.5 years. And when I was in transition year, 16 years of age, my mother passed away. And, everything Sandy said in her story, I was like, oh, wow, that was just like me. I'm from a family of 8, but I'm kind of the youngest girl. My other sisters were all in college, and I became the mother of the house. Coming home from school, I had a younger brother and 2 older brothers that were all quite close in age, and my job wasn't to go home and do homework, was to go home and cook the dinner for everyone else. So to try and do that at 16 and function and try and be a sports person and try and lead a normal life, I struggled. So after my mother died, I gave up football for a while. Again, I didn't realise a lot of this stuff. I wrote a book probably 5 years ago now, and you have to sit down, and I didn't write it. Someone, a ghostwriter, wrote it. But that was the first time I sat down. I was probably 33 at the time. I sat down with this lady, and I felt like I used to meet her for 4 hours. She was from Cork. I sat down with her, and I used to feel like I came home from counselling session. I was so drained the first couple of sessions I had with her, speaking about my mother's illness, about, I lost a friend at 18 as well in a car crash, speaking about her. I suppose for probably 16 years of my life, like any Irish family back then, mom died, you moved on, you hadn't time to think about anything else. So I felt like I had been to counselling at 33 because I had to put this all out in a book. Like Sandy, I didn't really want to write a book, as pressurised probably to do because it was the right thing to do, but it was probably the best thing because I was talking about it 16 years later. So yeah, on reflection, I think that was probably the best thing for me that I had now learned. As I said, I went to Australia. I had to stand on my own 2 feet because I was probably going from Ireland to Australia as this big superstar that had achieved huge amount, and now I was going to Australia and I was the smallest fish in the pond. And if I wanted to become a big fish, I'd go and have to, put my head down and work really hard. But it helped me grow as a person. So yeah, I was probably really grateful for that opportunity.
So Australia was something you're glad you did?
Yeah, hugely. I suppose like right throughout my career when I reflect, and I suppose you don't reflect a lot of the time until you finish your career and everything is done. Australia was huge, and it wasn't just from the point of view, obviously, when I was a 10-year-old in Carnarvon, I wanted to play for Manchester United. I loved Roy Keane. I thought I was going to be playing for the Manchester United boys team. you know, that obviously wasn't...
Mind you, you'd probably be better than some of them at the minute. But
that's probably true.
Sorry, Man United fans, sorry. I'm as bad as you, though.
But yeah, I just, you know, growing up, I always wanted to be a professional sports person, whatever I might be at. As I said, I thought it might be soccer growing up. Didn't get the opportunity at 35 to go across to the other side of the world and play professional sport. Was a huge opportunity. But also, I could be, again, I could go walk down the streets and, you know, in wherever I was, Randwick at the time in Sydney, and no one knew me. I didn't have any pressure on me. You know, the pressure was only being put on for myself to try and achieve in a different sport. But I loved the challenge of trying to become from the real bottom of your sport to the top. And as I said to you, I hadn't been in a sports team since I was probably 7 or 8 years of age, where I was new to a team. I always knew people that were in my club or in county or any of the teams I went into, I was new. And, you know, I was probably one of the star players. And, you know, now this was the whole new challenge. Plus, you're out with the Australians. The first couple of weeks, they couldn't understand a word I was saying. They thought I spoke real fast. So, you know, every time they'd stand there and they'd just stare me in the eyes and they're like, we don't have a clue what you're saying. So that was another challenge. But, yeah, it really made me become the person I am today. But it also... it helped me in many ways just, I don't know, just get away from probably the madness here at times, and just, I could just be who I wanted to be. Sometimes when I was here and there was pressure on you to do, you know, this, that and everything, and be a person that you probably really weren't.
The big challenge too, when you're a professional sports star, you know, there comes a time when in your 30s, you know, you're past your sell-by date, because that's the reality of professional sport. So then a new challenge creates itself. Suddenly you've built your career up, and then just like that it's over because you can't play anymore. So does that then present a new challenge?
I suppose, thankfully for me, it hasn't. I suppose when I ended my Mayo career after, you know, playing with them for 23 years, you'd certainly think, oh God, retirement, it's going to be very difficult, what's next? I was lucky Australia came, you know, I played 6 seasons over there, and I always wanted to finish on my terms. You know, I didn't want to be, the one that's been pushed out the gate because they're not good enough anymore, or injury or whatever else. So I was comfortable, you know, when I made my decision last year, you know, that I was finished. You know, I knew I was then going in working with Galway Camogie, so I don't feel, I had, like a lot of people retire and they feel that that's gone from them. I just feel I'm still there because I'm involved with a team now, still in that team environment. And the biggest thing is that I went on my own terms. It wasn't that I was being pushed out. So, yeah, I suppose people have been probably trying to retire me since I was 30, so I probably got about 11 more years out of it than I thought I would.
Yeah, now you're coaching, as you say, and you're involved with the Galway Camogie Club. Does that present a new set of challenges for you? Because some people, you know, they react differently to coaches. Some people don't mind being screamed at or shouted and say, you've got to do a better job than that. Others would perform better if a coach was more calm and collected. What kind of a coach are you, by the way?
We could do with you in Galway. You'd be very good. Me and you have a similar type of mindset. You're dead right. I figured when I went into Galway, I'm working like obviously 36 girls. And the biggest thing I found from females going into an environment is that they have the lowest self-confidence and self-belief in themselves. And these are girls that have, you know, won 7 All-Stars, 3 or 4 All-Irelands. And their self-belief and self-confidence in most female athletes is very low. And I struggled to believe that, because every day I went out, I believed I was the best, and I believed I was going to perform at my best. So that's a struggle to try and work with them individually and collectively to put a lot more self-belief and self-confidence in them, and not to have self-doubt in their ability. So that's probably the number one thing. I've figured out that everyone isn't wired the same, and they're certainly not wired like I was. You're like that. There's girls within the squad, and they wouldn't be afraid to tell you. You know, after building up a relationship with them. This doesn't happen automatically. You know, you have to get to know them, and you know, you have to have trust and respect. Respect is the biggest thing. You know, there's girls in the team that I'll, you know, give very little praise to, or very little, not encouragement, but praise to, because they're the ones that need probably the kick in the arse because I know that they can get another 10-15% out of them. But there's certainly girls in the team that I know that they come to training, you know, they might look a bit down. They could be doing their leaving cert, they could be doing college exams. you'll go over, you put your arm around their shoulder and you'll give them plenty of encouragement. And I suppose it's to build that relationship and trust. Now, you know, as I said, you're working with 36 individuals, individually but collectively. So now my job is to make sure we've, you know, 4 or 5 girls doing their leaving search that, you know, they're not feeling under too much pressure, you know, that girls, there's, you know, and I think people forget that we're sports people. Outside of sport, there's so much going on in home life. You don't know what's behind anyone's door once that door is closed at night time. So it's to be really wary that a lot of the time sport is used as a place that you can go, and I said be safe and express yourself or get away from troubles for an hour and a half in the evening or wherever it might be. And I'm very conscious, as I said to you this before I started, sport isn't just Gaelic football, it isn't just soccer, it isn't just rugby. It's a multitude of things. You know, there's a numerous, that could be dancing, it's even music. There's so many different outlets or different things that people have that might be their 1 hour or 2 hours enjoyment that they get in the week. And I'm very conscious, and again, these are only things I learned later in years, that, you know, when you have a group of girls, or if I'm down in the local club and training the underage, that they're there because they just want to come and enjoy it, and that's their sacred space for an hour and a half or 2 hours on a Saturday morning. So let them have that.
You always come across as being very disciplined and very focused. Behind all of that, is there an insecurity anywhere in there?
Oh, yeah, there has been huge. As I said, I grew up, you know, and as I said, I never wanted the limelight, and I probably, like, I still don't like it. You know, even though people say that you're on TV, I enjoy being on TV because I love the game of Gaelic football and analysing it. Yeah, right throughout my career, the course you have. Like from a sporting point of view, you know, once I knew I was fully, once I trained at a top level, I could perform on every week. But yeah, like anyone else, there's moments or there's years or there's months where you have plenty self-doubt or there's games. But I suppose over time, sport has probably given me many skills, and you know, I'd say this out, the skills that you get from playing, again, sport being the wider term, you don't get in school, you don't get in the street, you don't get at home. Like, and I know Frank spoke about resilience. You know, from dealing with my mom's death or my friend's death, you know, when I was over in Australia 3 years ago, we lost one of our teammates by suicide as well. But sport makes you so resilient, because it might be that you're having a shit game, it might be that you have a really bad injury, it might be that you're going through a really poor run of form your team is. So there's so many things that sport gives you, and I believe that I am so resilient and I'm so mentally strong from playing sport. And I believe that every young kid growing up, if you can keep them involved in some sort of activity, you know, whether it's individual or team, you know, obviously team sport is probably the best to be involved in. You're going to give them so many skills that you're not going to get anywhere in life. And, you know, it's really important as they grow up through their teens, especially the way society is now into their 20s, that they have these skills, because you need to be resilient, you need to be mentally tough in life, and I think sport gives you them.
Finally, Cora, you were telling us, tell us about the 70-plus-year-old man and the bicycle in Ballinrobe.
Yeah, so I was doing a talk for Ballinrobe Cycling Club last week, and I was just walking out after the event, and there was me and another guy, just, you know, talking about our sporting career, and I met this man, and he was wheeling a bike out. It was about 9 o'clock at night, and I said, you know, what are you doing with the bike? Even though he was at the event, and he started to tell me, oh, that's my son-in-law just ahead of me, and he was wheeling out another bike. And he said, I only picked up cycling 2 or 3 years ago. He said he's in his 70s, I didn't know exact age, but he said, no, I've taken up a sport. He said, I couldn't cycle a bike 2 years ago, and now he's out doing 80 or 90 kilometres at the weekend. So
it could be you.
But I think what he was trying to tell me, like, activity and physical activity for anyone at any age is so important, and the enjoyment that he gets for himself, but also the social aspect of it for a 70-plus guy to go and pick it up. It's never too late, and that's why, you know, I'm all for the message tonight that whatever it is, whatever activity it is, it's so good for your mental health. Anytime I'm down, and there's plenty of times in life you're down, or you're not in a good form, you're angry, whatever it might be that's going on in your life, you're stressed, whatever might be stressing you. The first place I'll go is to the pitch for a run, or I'll go to the gym, because automatically an hour later I'm feeling better. So no matter what age, or if you're not sporty or not, there's some activity for you to go out and do and help improve your mental health.
Okay, and finally, who's going to win the Taunton Cup?
I am going for Leitrim. I actually feel really bad because Andy Moran is obviously a good Mayo man and a good friend. So yeah, I'd be happy to see Leitrim win the Taunton Cup.
Ladies and gentlemen, Cora Staunton. Thanks, Cora. Well done. Thanks. Sean, you're getting ready, man. I think you're doing. What's next?
I do want to be
one. Yeah, we're going to get Sean to do one. He has Bovril and vodka in that cup. So we're going to finish off. I hope, ladies and gentlemen, you enjoyed the evening as much as we did. And I think we all learned. I think we've all learned an awful lot tonight. And I just want to mention as well, because I know there are some people here tonight from the Samaritans. And they are there 24/7, 365 days of the year. They're all volunteers and they're all there to listen. And if ever you feel like you need to lift up a phone, you can call the Samaritans 24 hours, 116123. And that's not one of the raffle winners. That's 116123. So please, I always say, put it on the fridge of your door, because you never know the day or the hour that you need it. But I think we all learned an awful lot tonight. And if we could all just put away technology and just put it into a press and deliver it over to Mozambique or somewhere and just start to talk to each other as individuals, we'd all be in a much better place. And we'd all be in a much better place if we could hear Sean Kane sing another song. So Sean, what are you going to do for us?
Well, see, you said put the technology away. I don't have any more to do with it. Me and technology don't get on at all. I'm going to do one of my own lonesome. I'll do another accompanied song, and it's a song called Satisfied Mind.
Okay, in your own time. Sean Kane.
All right. How many times have you heard people say, if I had his money, I would do things my way? But little do they know that it's so hard to find one rich man in 10 with a satisfied mind. For money can buy back your friends when you're old, a friend when you're lonely, or peace for your soul. The wealthiest person is a pauper at times, compared to the man with a satisfied mind. When my life is over and my time has run out, my friends and relations I'm going to leave, there's no doubt. There's one thing for certain, when it comes my time, I'm going to leave this old world with a satisfied mind. I'm going to leave this old world with a satisfied mind. Sinead, go to Michael.
Thank you. Thanks very much indeed, Sean. That was really great. Okay, just before we finish, you know, an awful lot of people put an awful lot of work into tonight, and to kind of give you the overview of all of that, one of your own is going to speak to us now. This is Valerie Ward.
Hi everybody. I just want to take this opportunity to thank you all for being here tonight and for making this event such a huge success. I'd especially like to thank all our speakers here tonight who did such a wonderful job. Frank Diamond, Santi Gelly, Sean Kane, Dr. Eamon Maguire and Cora Staunton. I'd like to thank Aaron Glancy, Fia Craigihan, Charlie McGettigan and Sean Kane for entertaining us with their beautiful music. Thank you to our Master of Ceremonies, Tommy Marin, who has done a great job here tonight, and for all his help and support in the lead up to this event. I want to especially thank Hubert McHugh and Mairead Cogan for the hours of work they've put into organising tonight. Without their help and support, this magnificent project would never have taken place. I want to thank Geevagh JA Club, the One Good Club Committee, and all the volunteers who have helped in any way to make tonight such a success. To Finbar Moran and his team of volunteers who have spent many hours cleaning and preparing the hall and church grounds over the past few weeks. I think you'll all agree that the place is looking great. We had a number of sponsors towards this event that I'd like to give a mention to. Donald Gallagher and the HSE Connecting for Life programme, Gerard Mullaney and the Sligo Leader Partnership, Sligo County Council, Kilronan Castle, Sligo Mental Health Association, Breffni Mental Health Association, the Coach House Hotel, Scotland's Gala Drumshambo, the Leitrim Observer, Pat and Kathleen Ward and John Flynn. I would like to thank Father Cullen for the use of the church and Charmond Breach. Thank you to all the voluntary agencies for displaying their information stands in the hall tonight. I have to thank Brendan Nugent for providing the PA system, and to John Flynn, who has been recording the event and has been live streaming it via YouTube. Thank you to Jerry Fowley and Kevin Torsney, who built and set up our stage here tonight. Thank you to Nuala Flanagan, who catered for our speakers when they arrived. Nearly done. Thank you to all our sponsors of our raffle prizes, and to Daniel and Kathleen Kelly and Nuala Gallagher, who organised and ran the raffle for us. We would like to invite you all up to the hall when we're finished here for a cup of tea and some goodies. I would like to thank everyone in the hall who has the kettles boiling for us, and to everyone who has donated baking and treats for us. Again, thank you all for coming out tonight in such great numbers. We hope you enjoyed it. We hope that having listened to the stories tonight, it may have in some way brought comfort, reassurance, and most importantly, hope to carers, loved ones and sufferers alike. Thank you.
Well done on the stage. Just to let you know, thanks for your generosity tonight. As you know, the raffle is being divided between Northwest Hospice and Geevagh Ladies Football Club. And the amount of money raised tonight on the raffle, God, you're a generous lot in Leitrim. 17... What? Oh, you're in Sligo, sorry. So, I'm from Sligo. Charlie, it's him that's putting me off, you see. He keeps saying I feel like I'm at home. Actually, it reminds me, I'll just tell you a really quick yarn, which I think is a really funny story. By the way, it was €1,750 raised tonight. Write it down. A lovely joke about a couple from Geevagh in County Sligo, and every year they went into St. Patrick's Day parade. Last year they went in and it was an absolutely awful day. And the great thing about St. Patrick's Day is you're guaranteed two things. You're guaranteed to meet people who are either drunk or who are either miserable, because it always rains. And it rained really heavy last year. And the couple come back to their little home in Geevagh. And the wife goes in and she's absolutely, as most women are when they're out and they come back in, they're feeling cold. And she was really, really cold. And it was Mary and Tom. So Mary sits down by the cooker and she's shivering with the cold. And she says to Tom, I'm going to die, she says, with the cold. So he goes and he gets her a duvet, as most men would do when their wives are cold. And she's still cold, and she says to him, you know, she said, Tom, do you know what might warm me up? She said, a little maybe slice of ice cream. So Tom says, right, I'll go and get you some ice cream. She says, maybe you should write it down in case you forget. He says, I won't forget, you only want a little bit of ice cream. And he's going towards the door, and she says, oh, and Tom, she says, you might put a little bit of jelly in the bowl as well to warm me up. And he says, I will. Tom's going to the door, and she says, Tom, will you write it down? You might forget. He says, all you want is a little bit of ice cream and some jelly. So he's going out the door, and she says, oh, and Tom, there's a flake in the press. You might put the flake on top of the jelly, on top of the ice cream. He says, I will. She says, write it down, you might forget. He says, I won't forget. You want ice cream, you want jelly, and you want a flake. 15 minutes pass, and there she is, shivering at the cooker, waiting for him to come back. And he arrives in, the door flies open, and there comes Tom with a big tray, and he plants it right down on Mary's lap. And the tray consists of 18 scrambled eggs, 4 black puddings, and a hash brown. And she looks up at him crossly. And he says, what's wrong? He says, what's wrong? She says, I told you, write it down. You forgot the toast. Anyway, there it is. Ladies and gentlemen, I hope you enjoyed our evening. Safe home and think positive. Good night. Thank you.